Hi, I'm Scott Bruun, running for United States Congress in Oregon's 5th Congressional District. Oregon voters and American voters have such a tremendous opportunity in 2010. I think most people look at what's going on in Washington, D.C. right now and know that we're sort of going off the rails, if you will. This race, my campaign in Oregon's 5th District, really gives Oregon voters, especially in Oregon's 5th District, a real opportunity to change the national tide, if you will, sort of regain that check and balance that's been missing for so long. And we have a unique opportunity. Not all congressional districts are swing districts, but Oregon's 5th Congressional District certainly is. This is a hard-fought election, and I think if you're an Oregon voter in the 5th Congressional District, not only are you getting the opportunity with our campaign to put a check and balance, and if you will, to put the brakes on some of the wrong-headed policies that are coming out of D.C., but also gives you a real opportunity to pick up some of those opportunities that we've squandered over the last few years. Opportunities that could lead to job creation and more growth in our economy, more educational opportunities, some common sense budgeting, and really that sense of confidence that we need to get back with our government, that our government is working in our best interests, not against us. You know, I have a whole bunch of policies that I'm very passionate about, but I think the number one issue going on right now with Oregonians, with all Americans, is the state of our economy and the fact that our economy is not producing those sort of private sector jobs that we all need and we all want. There's several important aspects that go with job creation. Regulation is part of that. The correct sort of policies, including trade policies, are part of that. But I think the number one issue when it comes to job creation is having a tax structure that sort of fits that. I would argue that right now the United States has a tax code that does not promote the things we want more of. We want more people working, we want more people saving, we want more people investing, we want people to take, if you will, calculated risks to put the money in the economy to create those private sector jobs. I would argue, and what I'm most passionate about, is that we have to change our tax structure to promote those sorts of things. We have to change our tax structure by simplifying it, by keeping rates low, and by having a real sort of pro-job creation mindset that goes with that. So I, in Congress, will be somebody that fights for tax reform. I mean, we haven't had real tax reform since 1986. I will be somebody who fights for tax simplification, so American families and American workers, American small businesses can get past this, the multi-thousand page Byzantine IRS tax code. And I'll be somebody who fights for the correct way to tax capital so we can incentivize investors to work back in our economy. Taxes matter, and it's been said that it's been said before that taxes affect every decision that we make to borrow, to buy, to save, to consume, to invest. And as it's been said, it's the sum total of those factors that determine whether our economy is growing or stagnant. Right now, our economy is stagnant. We need to get it growing. When you look at the national course we're on, my opponent, good guy, I've worked with him in the Oregon legislature. I have no personal animosity toward him whatsoever. But he, in effect, is rubber stamping, if you will, the sort of the course we're on. Now, if you like the course we're on, that's tremendous. But I would argue that the course we're on is reducing individual liberty. It's reducing individual responsibility. It's growing government rather than limiting government. It's getting away from our heritage of free markets and going more toward sort of a crony capitalism, as determined by Washington, D.C. He's part of that, and I think he's representative of the poor performance we're seeing out of Congress right now. I'm different than that. I'm somebody who's going to fight for individual liberty. I'm somebody who's going to fight for personal responsibility and limited government and free markets and something I call financial sobriety. So I think those are big, 30,000-foot level observations, but I think those are the primary differences between my opponent and I. There's no question that there's 435 members of the U.S. House, and of course, from a sort of political strength perspective, even though Oregon's a big state because our population is relatively small, so is our political strength if you measure it that way. So I think it's incumbent upon somebody like me, somebody who will be a new person in Congress, to land on your feet running. We don't have the time or the opportunity to hang out for 6 or 8 or 10 or 12 years to figure out how it works. You've got to get there and make an immediate impact, and that's something that I look forward to doing. It's something I've been preparing myself for. I have legislative experience, of course, in Oregon. Not that that's a direct correlation, but it gives me a little bit of a background. I take it a step further, though, and say that not only am I obligated to be effective right away for Oregon, but I'm also obligated to do something that hasn't happened in Congress for a long time, and that's to hold leadership accountable. I think what you see right now in U.S. Congress with Democratic control, and I would argue even saw it years ago with Republican control, is really this party-dominated, behind closed doors sort of mentality versus that bottom-up mentality, which which opens it up to the light of day. So something I take a lot of responsibility for is making sure that I hold leadership accountable for open, deliberative government. Something that I know Oregonians want, something I know Americans want, something we haven't seen in Congress in a long time. There's really two parts to that. There's the culture, and then there's the system. And I would argue that from a systematic perspective, our government's pretty good. I mean, when I mean the systematic perspective, I mean our Constitution. We've got multiple checks and balances. We've got dual sovereignty with the federal government and the state level. Every part about our constitutional structure of government is checks and balances are good. The problem that we have in D.C. right now is that check and balance sort of mentality has ceased to exist. Just because a party is in the minority doesn't mean it shouldn't have a voice. And that's something we've seen with this current Congress. We saw it with the last Congress, where the party in control just rams things through without really an open, deliberative process. So I would go back to the point I made a few moments ago and say that it's really incumbent upon people like me, hopefully a new generation of leadership going to Washington, D.C., to hold the folks that have been there a long time accountable for that sort of open government. We can operate on a bipartisan matter regardless of who's in power, but once again, that's only going to happen if people like myself, people who are newly elected to Congress, say no to the culture that has reigned in Congress for a long time. We're going there not to serve party interests, not to serve hierarchical interests in Congress or Washington, D.C. I'm going there to protect and defend the United States, and I do that by serving the constituents in Oregon's 5th District. So once again, instead of that top-down mentality we see now, we've got to have a bottom-up approach, and that's my responsibility. I just think 2010 is such an important election year. Really, as a nation, we're going to make a choice, good or bad, right or wrong, that's going to guide us for a generation or longer. And I'm hopeful that I would argue that we are on the wrong path right now. We're on a path that, to me, looks more and more like a sort of a European-style mediocrity. Love Europe, but that's not what I want for America. I want America to remain exceptional and to nurture that American spirit that we all know and we want. It's not about our country, right or wrong. It's about our country, period. What's right is everywhere. It's our friends, it's our families, it's our jobs, it's our homes. And what's wrong, we take care of. And we do as Americans always have. We roll up our sleeves, we say, let's roll, and we take care of it. And that's what I aim to do.